So some of the new tools inside of Photoshop CS6 are in the blur filter. So if you come over here to the filter menu, go down to blur, you're going to see field, iris, and tilt shift blur. So we'll cover field and iris blur inside of this video. They're kind of alike. So let's go to field blur first. And I think one of the first things you'll notice here is that it's a little bit different. We're used to this giant filter dialog popping up in the middle of the image, and then we have some settings that we adjust. Well, now we have this little thing in the middle of the image, and we have our settings over here. And I think that's probably kind of a hint toward the future. This little on-image control and maybe just panels where we apply our filters. But either way, let's take a look here. So you've got this little dot in the center. You can move it around. Right now it's not doing anything. The outer ring controls the amount of blur. So at this point, this is just a Gaussian blur. It's the same thing as if we just applied Gaussian blur to the photo. Where it gets more powerful is, let's say I pull this out to the side and I click and I add another one. Now I can add two and I can pull down the blur on this one. So now the middle has more of a, it's sharper, and the edge starts to get more blurry. And as I move this around, you'll be able to see here that they start to interact with each other. Okay, it's this like little force field of blur that starts to go through here, but it actually starts to interact with each other. So these 2 points will start to affect each other. I can even click over here and I can add a third point if I want. Okay, so you can keep on adding them, and you can control them separately. Just click in the middle so it has the white dot, and you'll know that that one is active for blur control. Okay? Now, where it really gets interesting is that I can click on one of these and I can come down to the blur effects panel at the bottom and I control the bokeh. All right, so or bokeh, just depending on what kind of mood you're in that day. And I know somebody will send me an email to tell me just how to pronounce it, and I will laugh at you and I will make fun of you because people pronounce it both ways. So keep it to yourself. Anyway, so we come down here, we can control the bokeh, the light bokeh, and we can control the color. Makes it a little bit more saturated in the background there. Okay, you can see here. You can even come down and control the range, which you can see here as I spread that out, it kind of gets a little bit flatter. As I bring it in, it kind of gets a little bit more contrast here. So I'm able to control the range of colors that bokeh will take. Okay, now let's go ahead and cancel this one. Let's go to iris blur. All right. Just going to go in here and delete these little guys. You can click on them and then just delete them. All right, so let's go to iris blur. Iris blur is, you see here in a second, it gives you this little contraption. All right, you can move it around. All right, you still control the blur by clicking on the ring and dragging, but now you get these little outer circles. So the outer circle controls the shape. I can make it more oval-like. I can bring it into a circle. If I click on the little square, I can make it more like a rectangle, or I can keep it in that circular shape. Move this into place over the hands, and I can even spread this out a little bit. And then the inner circle, these little dots, bring the transition in. So the transition from sharp, which is in the center, to blur, which is this outer ring, that's these little dots here. So the transition is very, very short here, or very, very long here, and also very harsh though. It's going to be just a big giant, everything's in focus, everything's out of focus. So you probably don't want to do that. You probably want to kind of keep these guys and get a nice smooth transition in there from the sharp middle toward that softer outer side there. And you can come in here and you can kind of reshape it. Of course, you can change the blur over here, or you can change it on the image by clicking on that ring, and just like before, you get control over the background with these bokeh settings that we have down here. So if you're into kind of getting a little bit creative with Photoshop CS6, the blur filters are really a cool place to start. Just click OK when you're done, and I think you'll see it's kind of a different way of applying filters. But as you start to go through Photoshop here, I think you're going to start to see that things start happening more and more like that, where we get more of an on-image control type of experience, and we're using panels rather than giant dialogues popping up inside of our photos, and we have to adjust them that way. Either way, very welcome change to Photoshop CS6. Give it a try. Hope you enjoy.